Welcome to the Leadership Labs with proptech.ai, a podcast where we delve into the fascinating world of deep tech entrepreneurship, company founders and venture capitalists. I'm your host, Anthony Kelly, and I'm thrilled to have you join us in this exciting journey. In each episode, we explore the minds behind groundbreaking technologies, the visionaries who dare to push the boundaries of innovation, and the investors who fuel the growth of tomorrow's game changers.
Today's guest is Jamie McInally, who is the CEO of Autoenhance.ai. Jamie, great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much, Anthony. I've been, listening to some of your previous podcasts and just really happy to be here and share some more details about Autoenhance and leadership.
Yeah. Looking forward to your story. Don't want to give away too much, but the sort of VC approach really stuck out to me as something that can be done different, and I guess we're both in London, right? People say going into London is the rat race. You can almost imagine Gen AI hitting up VCs is the rat race of Gen AI. But before we sort of jump into things and start talking about Autoenhance, Jamie, just take it back a little bit and tell us a little bit about yourself. Did your background breed you to be an entrepreneur, or was that something that just sort of developed as you grew?
Yeah, I've really been questioning this. I've always had this kind of approach to wanting to build things and automate things and provide tools for people. So, even from an early age, I was building computers and selling those and trying to get people to, buy computers from me, which then evolved into building websites for people, initially just for myself. I was trying to sell more computers. So I thought I'd try and build a website. And rather than selling more computers, people were like, oh, you can build websites. Can you build me a website? So this has always been a very natural progression of just trying to build something for myself and evolving that into something that other people want and commercializing that. And yeah, I don't know. I think I just get a little bit of a buzz in commercializing these products. It's just been something that has always been there, I guess, from the start.
It's great to see and great to hear. I hope to see qualities like that in my children when I'm older. It's pretty sick. Was entrepreneurship in the family? Were you sort of forced, or was there something that creates a more willingness, more openness to be less risk adverse?
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship has been there. My mother has always run her own business, like a graphic design business. So that's always been really inspiring. And then on the other side, like on my father's side, he's always been in the corporate world and seeing how restrictive that is and how it's kind of closed doors more than opened them, inspired me more to be like, okay, I want to start something myself. I want to take risks whilst I'm young, fail a lot and learn, and then hopefully, succeed from that.
Love the background, which sort of tees us up really nicely here into Autoenhance. Look, not your first rodeo. You've just mentioned you wanted to fail, which is great. It's not what people actually say they want to do, but definitely failure is on the road to success. What did you take from previous experiences, and how did they influence your approach when founding Autoenhance this time around?
Yeah. I mean, I reiterate that, I don't think anyone starts something expecting it to fail. But from being around other entrepreneurs, when I started my first venture, I was always talking to other entrepreneurs who'd either started something before, maybe they succeeded, maybe they failed, but the numbers are out there. Like 1 in 10 businesses succeed, so 9 out of 10 fail. So actually being prepared for that is extremely valuable. And doing that first venture, thinking that it would fail, was a real juxtaposition. I didn't want that to happen. But when you start to realize that this isn't something scalable, or this isn't quite a business model that will work, and understanding why it doesn't work is what you need to understand from that venture to go into the next one. So I was very fortunate that I was able to work that out very early. and then go on to try and build another business. And the amazing thing I found from failing with the first venture is the second venture took much less time. So we were able to get up and running, learning from previously, from that previous venture, and trying to adapt. So be like, okay, why did that fail? Let's try and not fail this time. And then that one fails for another reason. So, there's been 2 previous ventures that didn't work out prior to starting Autoenhance. But it just meant we were so prepared when starting Autoenhance. We didn't go into this thinking this is going to work out in 2 weeks. We were prepared for this to take a year, 2 years, 3 years before it started to work, and also apply that same mentality. Because we had this breathing room, we were looking for things to fail so we could adapt the business, adapt the product to get something that does work.
I mean, this is off track, but is there, like, pivots are often, they're trying to almost say, do you know what, we're not giving up yet, but it's not going to work, And I mean, famous pivots, and I think that's why you say no one plans to fail, right? Famous pivots. I think Lamborghini used to make tractors, and Starbucks initially actually made coffee machines, not take away coffee, right? And 2 minor pivots. I believe with Lamborghini, it was the guy that makes Ferrari says it's like something joked with him about saying stick to the farm or something, and he was like, I'll stick to supercars, and the Lamborghini was like, I'll show you. So that's how that one happened. But instead of going for pivots, you sort of, or were they pivots just sort of rebranded, or how did the change, those subtle changes happen, or changes in product happen?
From the previous ventures, or in terms of Autoenhance?
From the previous ventures.
Yeah, I mean, the previous ventures were always around AI, visual AI. I was, very early into AI, really inspired from a young age. So I wanted to get involved in that. But it was more, those previous ventures were both B2C ventures.
Right.
And you need an incredible amount of capital to get that off the ground. And it's also, it's really hard to crack something that, is going to be a useful product that customers are going to like. I mean, the first venture was very much, I'm going to build a product that I want to build and then see if customers like it, which is the wrong way. You're not going to listen to the customer. You're not going to have any kind of product that they want to use because it's not something that they've asked for. So that was really that first lesson of, listen to the customer. Don't build a product and then try and make it fit to the market, understand the market, and then build the product, which we tried to do with the second business. But again, that one just had its own challenges. That one's a crazy story. I was out in Singapore trying to build a business in Singapore when you're British. Yeah, that's a story for another time.
I kind of want to hear that one.
Yeah, then living in Melbourne at the time, and I was like, okay, we're not starting the business out in Australia. From, living in a different country, the hoops you've got to jump through to build a business in a country that isn't your home country, you're just adding layers of difficulty. You want to make it as simple as possible, as easy as possible. When we started exploring the idea of Autoenhance, we knew we wanted to get into the real estate market. We knew we wanted it to be B2B from those previous lessons of the challenges with B2C. And we knew, the UK market was 4 or 5 times the size of Australia. So it made a lot more sense for me to relocate back to the UK to get this business off the ground and go from there. But in terms of pivots, I'd say there's kind of macro and micro pivots. Macro pivots is when there's this seismic shift in your business where you're trying out a product, you're trying out an idea, you've got a good team, but the product's not working. Maybe for the market, the product's not the right product, or maybe you built the wrong product for that market. So those kind of shifts where you're like, we've got a great team, and I've seen this with other startups. They've gone, we're going to go somewhere completely different with this team, maybe even in a different market. Whereas things like Lamborghini, he's going from tractors to cars. And even though they are worlds apart and farmers are different to supercar owners, you've got to have that good understanding of how to build an engine and how all the parts go together, the gearbox and everything. So it's more micro. You're looking in the automotive market, and then you're focusing in on a niche, and you're moving from one niche to the other. And that's something that we've experienced at Autoenhance as well. We knew that there was an opportunity to speed up the deliverables for visuals in real estate, but we didn't know if that was building a service that allowed anyone to book a photographer on a mobile, or whether that was going into video. But then the photo just seemed to be the most logical, because it was kind of, they want to get these photos as soon as possible. They're already taking the photos, but the slow part was the editing process. So we were able to get in there. But even at that point, we didn't know exactly who our customer was. Is it a real estate photography company? Is it an estate agent? Is it a property portal? Is it a proptech? There's so many different ways you can go with a product like this. And it's taken time over the years, adapting the product, speaking with a variety of customers to really nail down who exactly is our customer and who do we want to scale this business with.
I mean, you've touched on a lot of really nice lessons there, particularly some that seem like glaringly obvious, right? Which is great when you take a step back and you just reflect and you're like, yeah, that obviously makes a lot of sense now. At the time, it might seem like a harder decision to make based on your own sort of personal situation. But I mean, other than sort of the lessons, what other sort of misconceptions have you encountered about founding your own startup, whether it be with Autoenhance or any of the previous ones?
I mean, I'm a very optimistic person, so I go into anything thinking that this is going to work out. So even though I said we were more prepared for Autoenhance, I still had this thought in my head that this business is going to take off in 3 months. It's not that hard. Turns out it's a lot harder than we thought it was.
Going to be like Chat GPT, 100 million users in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, right? They've been doing GPT for a long time, and then they reconfigured GPT into Chat GPT, and it just explodes. Yeah. So again, that's more of a reconfiguration. They had a great understanding, a great team behind it before they built that incredible product. But yeah, it's certainly going in with the mindset that you're not going to hit it out the park first time. And I've had some great people around me, like good mentors, who said this from an early stage. Like when I did the first venture, they're like, right, this is something that's you're not going to want to hear, but you're going to fail. You're going to fail again. You're going to fail again. But each time you're going to get better and better, and you're going to learn from it. And as long as you just embrace it, don't take it too seriously. Don't think that everything is over after you fail the first time. Apply that. It's going to get better from there. And when you're a budding entrepreneur, you think you've got this incredible idea, you're putting every second of your life into this idea, to hear from someone saying that this is going to fail is horrible. But you just have to take it on the chin and go from there. And I think that has been the hardest thing is realizing when a business isn't going to work out and when you adapt from it. So like that second business in Singapore, when you've invested so much time and so much energy and you're willing this idea to succeed, and then you're realizing that this isn't going to work out. Where do you find that line? Because you're digging a deeper and deeper pit. And at some point, you've got to, tell the team that this isn't going to work out. You've got to tell investors that this isn't going to work out. And it's a horrible experience. But looking back now, after doing that, it's kind of like a necessary thing that had to happen. And as soon as you cut it and move on from there, the lessons you've learned from that and applying that to the next business, you're just going to speed up the next venture that you get into. So, yeah, I guess that is the biggest lesson is just to embrace the failure.
Yeah, it is hard, and a lot of people do find it hard to walk away. I think whether you pay like a mental tax, emotional tax, physical tax for the last 6 months of what you've done, and as you said, you might spend 6 months building something that's perfect for you, but at the end of the day, if it's only perfect for you, it really has no value, but only to you.
Yeah, but it's that sunk cost fallacy, right? You've invested so much, so should you double down and keep going, or should you cut it there and then move on to the next thing? And I think that is a really hard problem for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially if they're taking on capital from investors as well. It just puts more pressure on them that they need to turn it into success. Yeah, I think that's a big challenge.
I guess this is where two sort of things I want to ask here. What if we talk about like failure can be put down to poor execution, maybe, right? Or it then leads to innovation, but then you have to take what the failure was, innovate off it, and execute off that again. Where is the balance between innovation and execution to progress your ideas, to progress your business?
Yeah, I mean, starting any business, the numbers are against you, right? It's like going into a casino with like a 1% chance that you're going to make a return on your money. If you play roulette, I think the worst probability is like 1 in 34 or something like that, which is a higher chance of succeeding than starting a business and making it succeed. So, the numbers are up against you. So in terms of innovation and execution, though, I guess execution is the hardest thing. It's very easy to come up with a great idea. So many people, when Uber came out and succeeded, they're like, "Oh yeah, I had the idea of Uber 10 years ago. Why did you not build Uber then?" It's easy to sit around and come up with great ideas, but unless you actually go out there and try them out, you're not going to work out if they succeed or not. And I think this is another thing, is to just have that confidence in yourself to try out these ideas and see if they work or they don't. It's again learning from failure. If you've got an idea, how can I try it out with the least amount of investment to learn from it, to see if it can succeed? And that's a lot of what we do at Autoenhance. We built the first version of Autoenhance in 3 months and started pitching it to customers. It was terrible. No customer would pay for what Autoenhance was 3 months in. The images were shocking, but the idea that an AI could edit their photos, that was the little nugget that got them to believe in us. And if we weren't going to these first few customers believing in what Autoenhance could be, they would not have believed in Autoenhance succeeding and put up with us getting the product to where it needed to be so they could actually use it and were willing to pay for it. So I think it's just having the conviction in yourself. I'm probably biased towards this because I'm just sitting around thinking of ideas all day, every day. And they're stupid ideas. That's another tangent. But if you're not executing on them, trying them out as rough as they are, you're never going to learn if it's going to work or not. So I think it's really important to execute, no matter how rubbish the idea is.
Yeah, I can't remember. It was maybe the book, The Catalyst, or something similar, or some book about getting shit done for entrepreneurs. And it was basically like, don't be afraid to talk about your ideas. People are not trying to steal them. People are probably out there trying to do their own. So it's I know that is one thing that people say, "Oh, I've got this great idea, but I don't want to tell anyone." No, tell everyone. Work through it. Get idea, which is kind of where I wanted to come through and ask, like, between innovation and execution. You wanted to sit in right. We mentioned perfect product for you, probably will get shelved. You mentioned you showed customers after 3 months. I'm assuming previous experience has taken you on this customer-centric focus. I want to know what my users will get or what they want to see out of this product so that I can better suit them. And then do you apply customer feedback into what you're going to deliver for features, how you're going to deliver timelines, or where does innovation and customer meet really?
Yeah, I think it really varies on different businesses. But yeah, again, it's really taking as rough of an idea as possible and presenting that to customers. You need to think logically, like, what can I present to a customer? And in the past, when we've been trying to work out if a feature is valid, if it's, got some value to customers, we might even just start with the design. So we might design it, or we might get the designer to put something together and have a meeting with that customer. It can be on Zoom, it can be in person, and we go through this idea. And it's not just, here's the idea, here's the feature, when do you want to start using it? It's really working with the customer to understand what this feature needs to be, what is critical for the customer to use it for it to be a valuable feature. And you could do that all the way back until like the product as well. It's very much trying to adapt and listen to the customers, and also having a few customers to talk to as well. Because if you're building a feature for one customer, you're not a business. You're building bespoke products for different customers. You need to understand across an industry what is required for it to be a scalable feature that's not only going to address your existing customers, but also new customers that you want to get down the line.
I guess this is it does happen, right? Sometimes you do get stuck into that first customer, large customer, build them a bespoke product, but then you want to quickly convert to an out-of-the-box solution to make it scalable, and next thing you know, you're running two separate products and probably two separate teams.
Yeah, but that's like the lean startup, right? That's what the whole book talks about. You're trying to test out as much as possible before you invested a whole load of time. And from my first venture, we spent months trying to build the product, to get everything working as perfectly as possible. And when we released it to customers, it just didn't do what they needed. It's not something that they would be prepared to pay for. So if we had spent that time being more rough and putting something together that's not quite ready, but presenting it to lots of customers, sitting down, talking to them, interviewing them, I think we would have had a much better product out of it.
A lot more information on what's going on in the market, what people would actually pay for, real problems, real challenges. Nice. Look, I wanted to sort of jump on to the next topic here around like bootstrapping, and I guess, look, it's amazing what you've done at Autoenhance, right? You're in the space of Gen A. You've got a product that's on the market, arguably 60-70% more than what most companies are actually even getting investment for today at ideation or whatever it is. And realistically, you could jump in and start aggressively pursuing VCs, and I'm pretty sure they're probably aggressively pursuing you. But what's the strategy behind staying and keeping it bootstrapped? It's unique in the Gen AI space in 2020.
Yeah, I've always had this mentality that if you were going to start a business, you have to raise capital. And I think it's ingrained. Yeah, I grew up watching things like Dragon's Den, reading books about amazing businesses in the past, and all of them raise capital. That's the first thing to get the business off the ground. And that was always my mentality about this previously, even with the previous ventures. We need to raise capital to make this succeed. But what I found with those previous businesses is the desperation. You don't have this time where you really need to work out what the product is. You can't focus on the product because you're spending so much time working on pitch decks, going to events to meet investors, working on that elevator pitch to get the hook on your business. But at the end of the day, you don't have a business to be invested. So you're really splitting your time between the two when you're trying to raise capital and run the business. And so from starting Autoenhance, I didn't want to have that desperation. I want to have this buffer where we can really invest in the product. There's no urgency to raise capital. So prior to starting Autoenhance, after the second venture didn't work out, I didn't rush back into the next business. I took my time. I luckily have skills in building AI, so I was able to do some contract work. Tried to spend as little money as possible in that time to build up this buffer. So when we started Autoenhance, it's not, we need to raise money so I can pay my salary, so I can pay my rent, which I think a lot of businesses have the issue of doing. It was, we've got some money, so my long-term advisor and mentor, Adrian Gill, and I started Autoenhance, and we put some money in. We were very careful with how we spent that money. We wanted this money to last as long as possible. And 100% of the time was focused on the product, focused on the customers, focused on the business. Nothing around raising capital to blow up the company. It was, let's get a company off the ground. Let's get revenue. That's a business. Then we can start thinking about raising capital. And by 2022, so it was quite a long time until we started generating revenue. So we put in a small amount of money in 2020 to get the business started. And that lasted us until 2022, January, where we made our first bit of revenue. And that first bit of revenue was this, amazing milestone where, wow, we've actually got capital to reinvest in the business and grow the team and go from there. We just carried on doing that. And 2021 was a very interesting time because there was so much capital being thrown around. Valuations were astronomical. So we had a lot of interested investors coming after us. And we definitely entertained the conversation because you never know when you might need capital. There is a time in a business where you need to think about growth and that rocket fuel. But there was no urgency at this time. There was a lot on our plate that we needed to do anyway. We had the capital to do it. And if we had millions in the bank, we'd probably misspend it and end up growing too quickly and having to shrink down again, which sucks for everyone. You're hiring people, good salaries, you're then having to let them go. You're spending a lot of money in marketing, and it's kind of just burning through the capital. So we just had this very conservative approach about how to build the business in a sustainable way. And I think that's really benefited us in building a great product, having customers that are invested in us to build these great foundations of the business. So, yeah, I think for a software company, this is something that a lot more people should explore. I know in more capital intensive businesses, hardware, it can be, there is no other option.
Yeah.
So it's, for us, it just was the way we did it.
No, I had Vadim on recently. He is a co-founder. He actually co-founded 3D Look. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that business. Virtual fit and try on, not a million miles away in terms of technology that you would use, but he's gone on to actually launch a VC fund, and I think he's very much on this. He's definitely on or voting or would prefer more product-led businesses than VC-led businesses. As we're saying, you're always chasing the next one. You're a part-timer in your own business because you're so focused on what's not in your business when you're chasing the VC, and immediately you close one and you think, right, we've got 18 months. I need to make sure I've got VCs lined up again for 18 months. So it actually doesn't even stop.
Yeah. And I think there's some great examples of this as well. In the Twitter space, I know there's a few people on there that are all talking about their micro SaaSes, the 4-hour work week, talking about, you can start a business part-time whilst you're still employed. So you can learn these lessons about what business model works whilst you're still making salary and you're able to pay your rent and buy food and everything. So I think the fundraising approach has just been so ingrained because it's so glamorous. We look at all these businesses. Oh, this business raised 5 million seed for an AI microwave or something like that. It's not something that could be valued at that amount. It's like just seen as an amazing thing to raise all this money. But at the end of the day, if you're raising 5 million, you need to turn that into more money. You've got to build a business with that capital. And, we're seeing a lot of companies now who are even IPOing and they haven't even made a profit. There's Reddit that's 19 years old and they've not even made a profit yet. There's a huge opportunity there for sure. But yeah, they're IPOing in that kind of condition. There's companies like Uber, when they IPO'd, they were not profitable. WeWork as well. So there's all these examples of
I think we're even
crazy
surprised
businesses.
WeWork can still make any list at this point.
Yeah, but they had that realization that, oh wow, we're not actually worth 35 billion. We need to scale down. And even when they scaled down, their valuation has plummeted. I think the latest offer is like 500 million for the whole of WeWork.
Yeah,
so
not good.
It might look great in the short term to raise this capital, but if you're not building a sustainable business from it, then the house of cards are going to tumble down.
And I think I'm going to pull up the phrase that you mentioned to me, I think 2-3 weeks ago. Raising money is not the hard part. The hard part is turning that money into money. And you've just sort of touched on some of the businesses that obviously we've seen recently not have that sort of success. There's Getir, there's pretty much every food delivery business that got investment in 20 down 60% since, and I think that's most e-commerce businesses have actually followed that trend since 2021 when everyone was inside and forced to online shop. Let's be honest, it's going to create a fake valuation, but they are now unable to turn that money into more money. So on your ideation of strategies or principles, how do you keep your head not coming in someone, oh, do you know what, we can give you 5 million and then in 18 months we can get someone to give you 25 million and then in 6 more months we can get you another 100 million, which is essentially the garden path that as soon as you take that first bit of investment, you've got to know you're getting in this. Like, these VCs are signing on to you to turn you into cash in 7 years with some form of exit or acquisition. So how do you keep yourself guided and keep yourself focused on sustainable business practices amongst all the flashing lights?
Yeah, once you get on the merry-go-round, you can't get off. That's the problem. And it was so ingrained. When I started Autoenhance, I was like, yeah, we'll just raise some capital. But because I was in these environments, I was in an accelerator program for people that wanted to become entrepreneurs. I was in WeWork labs when that was still a thing. So I'm surrounded by all these other businesses. And every week there is pitching, elevator pitch. We're sitting down with the founders and they're talking about how they raised capital and grew from there. Every now and then there's pitch events where there'll be VCs invited to see you pitch. So this whole culture is around raising capital. I don't know if it's incentivized by the VCs. That's why I say prominent. So being a business that thinks we're just going to invest our own money in it and then eventually make some revenue to grow the business was so just unheard of in this environment. And when you've got something like Autoenhance where gross margin's amazing, the growth is great, it's so hard not to go down that route of raising. But it's really the team around you. And Adrian is this kind of guy that's been through that before, raising capital before, and experienced the hard parts of raising capital. And he's very much been the one that's kept us focused on what we need to do. And those previous ventures as well. I experienced it firsthand, how distracted we got in not building the business, and seeing how much Autoenhance was working by focusing more on the business meant we made more progress. So I think we always talk about this because you could take capital on at any moment and it would be great. It gives you the breathing room, gives you the capital to grow. But it's never been like Autoenhance is going to die in 3 months unless we raise the capital. So we've never had that kind of urgency. And I think raising capital does unlock a lot for a business. It's just about when is the right time to do that.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, like I said before, every business is different. And if we didn't go down the B2B route, you might do B2C. You might need a huge amount of capital to do marketing. So this is just from my personal experience. But I think the culture is really geared towards raising capital. So I think what I would love to see in the future is just more businesses that have done it organically, bootstrapped. Maybe they raise capital later down the line, but to validate their business and get it started, bootstrapping it.
Yeah,
100%.
I think it really comes down to how quickly can you almost fail then, right? And links back to customer centric. If you have an idea and you know who the customers are, pitch them a really crappy design, right? See what they think, see what they pay for it. You get pretty quick feedback. You probably have, in terms of like time spent, sunk cost investment would be relatively low compared to most. And I think, like, for me, that's probably something I've picked up just from other guests on this show.
Yeah, I think there's even customers out there that are willing to pay for it before it's even created.
That is true.
If you are onto something that they are willing to put their money into before it even exists, and they see that you are passionate enough to will it into existence, then that is incredible validation that you're onto something big. So I think that's something to explore.
So it's been a point before that's actually been discussed on this, and it's right, let's say government investment, how they're spending money through, I don't know, networks. So if you're in Germany, Deutsche Bahn, National Rail in the UK, they're probably spending a lot of money on like rail maintenance, right? There is probably an AI startup out there who's trying to automate this with computer vision or maybe robotics to get it happen. And instead, that's probably resulting in a company that's chasing VC funding, hardly going to be able to bootstrap themselves with this overcost. But in reality, the solution that they're solving, if the government was to throw them a bone and said, you know what, here's whatever amount of money, if you can solve this for National Rail, that's it, you're their number one supplier, number one vendor. But here's I don't know, 5% if you secure this upfront. So I do feel there is elements of governments can be doing more. They can link founders up with who they're actually solving the problems with. And that's just within the government ecosystem, right? We're talking hospitals, we're talking transport. I'm pretty sure we go down the road of airports, although they're more private. But yeah, definitely a lot more opportunity out there of how these things can be done smarter, how startups can have or deliver specifically to a customer, which again gives that customer-centric approach.
Yeah, but I think the big thing is the sustainable businesses as well, because we see a lot of capital being invested in businesses where they're losing money on every usage of the business. I think one example is you've got like Rivian, the car company in America. They're selling their trucks at like $70,000 or something like this, and they're losing $30,000 on each truck.
Wow!
So all that VC money, the revenue that's being paid for a pretty pricey truck that's competitive in the market, they're losing money on every truck that they deliver. And we see this with businesses, if we go back to WeWork again, where they were blitzscaling and paying astronomical rents on the buildings and then charging a fraction of that to people to be in WeWork, which isn't sustainable. And I think that's a big thing in AI as well. We've got all these companies that are raising astronomical amounts of capital. A lot of that is going into the computing resource. So every time that you're processing something with AI, everyone has this idea that you need GPU. But actually, there's so many other ways to do it more efficiently, more cost effectively, that hasn't been explored, because it doesn't matter if we're losing money on every image we process or every prompt that we process, but eventually it's not sustainable. when you run out of the VC capital and then you're actually you're making a loss every month with every service call that you're producing, that's not a sustainable business. So we've had this advantage that we've always been profitable with how we're processing the images, which means as we scale up, we're not concerned about our burn going up because we're having to substitute our product. The more volume we do, the more profitable the business is.
Yeah, I guess it's that in a gold rush, don't sell gold, sell shovels, really, eh?
I think it's just being prepared.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these businesses, the investors might not invest any further, and then you're suddenly having to switch to a profitable business. It's taken us a long time to get the product to a point where it is profitable on every image, and it's chipping away at that every month because that allows our business to grow, put us into a strong position. But if we did that switch in a month, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah. And then, look, just on time, Jamie, want to make sure I can sort of crack off with a final question for you. Future of AI, future of Autoenhance. I mean, the last 3 years have been mind blowing with what's happened in the Gen AI, computer vision, LLM space. Where are we going, and how are you going to keep up to date with what your customers want? What's the strategy and plan for that?
Yeah, I think if anything, we've become more niche as we've evolved. So we focused on real estate images, and now we're in a sub sector within that, really picking the sort of customers that we want to work with, building the products and the features for them. And that's allowed us to be more focused, especially with a small team, with a small amount of resources. It means that we can be hyper-focused on this sort of customer, work on features and parts of the product that is critical for them to create a sustainable business to scale as well. So, in terms of the future of AI, I think it's an interesting one. There's so much talk about AGI. Sam Altman trying to raise $7 trillion to start his chip company, which is bonkers, but he's the master of marketing. So, how much of that is true. But yeah, I think we should really assess AI within our businesses. We are using as much AI as we can as possible. We're using AIs to work with our programmers to make them more efficient. We're using it within our marketing to make that more efficient. So kind of building these co-pilots that are working with our team, because we are a small team, we lack the resources to make them as efficient as possible. I think that's what a lot of businesses should look into as well. Try and adopt AI that's going to make their businesses more scalable. So I think that's really the way that we're going, for sure. So I think it's just being clued up on what's coming up and being ready for it. In terms of the future of Autoenhance, we're focusing on making our products as good as possible. We're trying to increase volume and looking into areas that Autoenhance can evolve into that makes use of exciting new areas that are coming out of research labs.
Excellent. Jamie, that will do us for today's episode. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being a guest. Everyone, if you want to catch him on LinkedIn, it's Jamie McInally, CEO at Autoenhance. Thanks again, Jamie.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Anthony. Great to be here.
That concludes another enlightening episode of the Leadership Labs podcast. If you found today's episode thought-provoking and informative, be sure to subscribe to the Leadership Labs on your preferred podcast platform or on YouTube. Thank you once again for joining us on this journey through the Leadership Labs. Until next time.